Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Nick Farrell Reacts. Today I thought I'd do something a little different. I wanted to open a discussion about Ren. And this is something I'm thinking about doing with every artist that I cover here on the channel. But essentially I feel like I've seen enough of a sample size of Ren to feel like I'd like to talk about him a little bit more in depth. And what I've taken from his videos and his music, and frankly what I'm most impressed about, right? So first things first, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. It helps this video reach more Ren fans, more music lovers, and open a dialogue on this channel, because I love interacting with people and I try to get back to everyone in the comments. Secondly, if you want to support me, I do have links down below. But ultimately, I want most of that support to go towards Ren. Today, though, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to the community that surrounds Ren. He seems to have a very, very die-hard base of people who he's affected in a positive way. When I posted my first reaction to Hi Ren, it was really one of my first videos, and I was blown away by the amount of people that flooded the comments saying they identified with the song or they identified with my perspective. And I definitely got some harsh feedback on some of my interpretations as well as my profession as a psych nurse. But ultimately, I have very, very positive things to walk away remembering. So let's start with Hi Ren. That video to me obviously has just been blowing up on the internet, and I truly did not know what to expect when I first watched it. And so it opens in this sort of dramatic way where Ren is obviously in a hospital gown and he's engaging in dialogue with himself. And that's a powerful scene just to be brought into as an audience member. You're sort of transported onto stage with him, right? And he does break the fourth wall a couple of times, looking directly at the camera, acknowledging your presence there. But most of the song is done in one take. You know, there's a mic on the guitar, there's a mic on his gown, and he just owns that performance. And pretty much everyone I've seen react to the song since then, because I've definitely watched a couple reactors after, they're just blown away by the cadence switches, the self-dialogue, the self-awareness, and ultimately the message that it's okay to talk about your frustrations, right, with your mental health. And in Ren's case, a lot of that stemmed through his history with Lyme disease being misdiagnosed, right, and the struggles of being put into a health system. He lives in Brighton, so I'm assuming it's the NHS, which I know it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people in the UK. But essentially, you don't get the care that you need when you need it. And if you do receive care, oftentimes it's not the right type of care. And so in his case, he was handled poorly, probably. And something I've noticed with people with psychiatric illnesses is that once they're diagnosed with an illness, they're treated that way, right? First off, I need to say this again. I really do believe in the power of medicine, and I do believe in the power of therapy. But it's how you approach these things, right? As a provider, as a psych nurse, as a technician, as a therapist, that ultimately leads to the best patient outcome, right? So in Ren's case, from what I've gathered, he didn't feel heard, right? And you really see that in some of his later outlines. I mean, you've got Chalk Outlines, Hi Ren, his whole trilogy, and you can tell that he's just kind of screaming inside. Now, the trilogy doesn't have as much to do with that side of things. That's more of a bard's tale of a very, very sad story. But I think it's a powerful thing to feel like you're being heard, especially when you feel so vulnerable, right? and someone sitting across from you ultimately trying to come up with a diagnosis for you. So that's very frustrating, and I want to acknowledge that. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments about his situation and what you think could have been done better, and a proactive one, right? Not just like discard the whole system, because I don't think that's a very proactive outcome either. You know, and if this ever does reach Ren, props to you for getting your message out. You know, you're a go-getter. I plan to react to you a lot more. I know that you were busking on the streets for a long, long, long time, just honing your craft, and it like shows. It really, really shows. You very capable in different facets, whether that's rap, singing, guitar. Your guitar handling skills are impeccable, honestly. But yeah, I'm very, very humbled and impressed by your work, and ultimately I think the coolest thing you've done so far is make such a taboo subject very accessible to people, and with the power of YouTube and the internet, I think your message is spreading like wildfire. So that part to me is amazing. So I know Ren is being treated right now for Lyme disease in Canada. I'm still at that stage where I'm not trying to research him, because I am actively reacting to his videos, and I want to keep those as genuine as possible. But I know that Ren also participates in a band, which is a completely different style, and so I look forward to seeing more of those videos. But in Hi Ren, I do really feel like the core message there was delivered and packaged properly, and sort of the inner fight with your darker thoughts and your darker side, the one that feels like you don't deserve to be heard. Also, sorry for the sounds out there. My soundproofing is terrible, and I live in a big city. But the darker dialogue that you have with yourself that often drowns out the positive thoughts in your head. You know, the echo chamber effect, telling you you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And Ren fights back against that, right? And he goes, I know my music's good. And yeah, I may not be the most popular, most streamed artist, but those who reach find it really, really powerful. And that's very, very evident. So that aspect of Ren, Hi Ren, is invigorating to me. Moving on to chalk outlines and feeling empty. Feeling like you are literally just this chalk outline that's been found on the street. The person that's inside that outline has been faded away, and people just look through you like, almost like as you're not there, or you're invisible. And the way we sort of discard people in the system, you know, again, once you're diagnosed, people's opinions about you form, and they change. And that's not just true with just psychiatric disorders. It's true. We put labels on everything in society. And once you're known as something, people view you through that lens. And it's very, very, it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. In Ren's case, he's had a very, very difficult life. And I know from interacting with most of you in the comments that I think the common theme is that we all identify with Ren and his struggles in some way, right? The path through life is tumultuous at times. And if you don't have a support system, or you have a support system that is not always reliable or accountable, or doesn't believe in the truth that you believe, it's tough. So one thing I value is believing in people's truths. No matter how out there they may seem at the time, that is their reality. And realities can change, and that's one of the things we try to approach in therapies, right? But in that moment, those people are real people. So it's very, very important you treat them as people. And I think that gets lost in many healthcare systems, right? Sadly, that's just a reflection on resources available, protocols implemented. Um, Having an organic approach with someone is tough, right? When there's a system around it, right, that requires you to do things in a certain way. But ultimately, I'm really glad that Ren is receiving the care that he's getting for Lyme disease. He's obviously very prolific, talented, has a dedicated fan base, and it's just the beginning, right? So, then the trilogy, right? So the trilogy, to me, was very theatrical. And I did it out of order, as we've noticed on this channel. But I did revisit Violet's Tale after I watched Jenny and Screech. What I loved most about that was I felt like I was watching theater. Ren is a thespian at heart, you can tell. And like many artists, I think he pours his heart out into his lyrics. The way he breaks his sing-song style at times and literally just talks, right, is very much akin to stage right, stage left, stage instructions in a play, right? So if you look at many scripts, there's instructions that the audience is obviously not reading or getting, but are clear to the actor and the set designers and everyone involved in that production, right? It's the words that are not spoken out loud. And I really like how he sort of peels back the lens and lets you sort of in on the secret, right? A very tragic tale. I have a full in-depth conversation about that. This has sort of turned into a rambling video, but this is how my brain works. I like to just, talk about everything I've sort of absorbed about Ren so far. I'll probably be doing this with the other artists on my channel, but in his case, I feel like I've seen enough to get kind of an essence of what he's about and the truths that he likes to tell. So, if you enjoyed this video at all, give me some feedback. I would love to do more of this where I'm not just reacting to videos and I'm really just sort of approaching subject matter. Ultimately, that's where my passion is. Like, I like reacting to videos, but I really like to have a dialogue with people. And YouTube is such a cool platform to do that on. And I do some live streams. I've just started experimenting with that. Please, if you ever are struggling with any mental health crisis, seek help. Feel free to reach out to me. Don't be ashamed. Like, it is so common, and it should not be stigmatized, right? And just because you don't have the resources available to you right then and there, or the social support, that doesn't mean that you can't have that. And you do deserve it. So, thank you very much. I'll see you in my next videos. Please turn the bell on for notifications, subscribe. Pretty new reacting channel here, but I am sort of exploring avenues in which I can create a larger thing here. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.